Game of Thrones is a worldwide phenomenon. George R.R. Martin has become known for going against the grain of fantasy by killing off important fan-favorite characters. But that's not all he does for the sake of realism. Many of the characters, events, and cultures are based on medieval European history. As the series on both television and in the books have progressed, religion has become a greater and greater part of the plot. So today I'm going to explain to you the religions in Game of Thrones and their real-world inspirations. Let's start with the New Gods. The religion of the Seven was brought to Westeros by the Andals, and it quickly became the dominant religion of the continent. In this religion, you worship the seven gods: the Father, the Mother, the Warrior, the Maiden, the Smith, the Crone, and the Stranger. Though portrayed as polytheistic, the faith of the Seven is actually a monotheistic religion. They believe there is only one actual God, and when you are praying to one of the seven, you are worshiping one of the aspects or persons of God. This is a direct correlation to Christian theology. Within Christian theology, there is a concept known as the Trinity, which is very complicated, and I'm not going to explain it in its full complexity, but here is a layman's understanding of it. There is only one God, but God is three persons: the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Though these three persons are one God, they are not each other. God the Father is not God the Son, nor God the Holy Spirit. God the Son is neither the Father nor the Holy Spirit, and God the Holy Spirit is neither the Father nor the Son. It's super complicated, and Christians have been fighting over it for a long time, but this is what the theology of the Seven resembles. And in A Feast for Crows, a Septon explains how many of the less educated people believe that they are worshiping seven different gods, which means people in Westeros are just as confused by this concept as we are here. Christianity and the faith of the Seven also have many of the same aesthetics, with grandiose houses of worship and multiple orders within the religion. In particular, it resembles pre-Reformation Christianity, because the High Septon is the head of all believers of the Seven, like the Pope was for Western Christianity. Next, let's move on to the religion of the Old Gods in the North. The Old Gods were originally worshipped by the children of the Forest in Westeros before the arrival of the first men, who would defeat and make peace with them and adopt their religion. The religion of the Old Gods is very nature-centric, with the godswood being their place of worship. A weirwood tree with a face carved into it, referred to as a heart tree, is especially sacred. Green seers can see through the eyes of the faces of the heart trees, and the children of the forest believe that the weirwood trees were once God who died and became part of the forest. The closest parallel to a religion from our world would be that of the Druids in Celtic Britain. The Celtic religion was heavily focused on trees, and they believed that they had supernatural powers. The Old Gods have people they have chosen to receive special gifts such as foresight, but the most important one for our Celtic connection are the Skin Changers. The Skin Changers have the ability to take control of the mind of an animal and control its actions. Celtic myth is full of stories of human beings being transformed into animals. However, there is a limitation to the comparisons with Druidism. The two religions are structured very differently. While the religion of the Old Gods lacks formal structure and dogma, the Druids did have a structure and were very secretive of their rituals and beliefs. In fact, the only historical records of the practices of the Druids came from the Romans, who spent centuries fighting them. Because the Druids believed in secrecy, they forbid writing anything down, which leaves modern historians with only biased Roman accounts and whatever anthropological evidence turns up. However, the secrecy of the Druidic Celts plays well into the religion of the Old Gods, because very little is known of them in their own universe. Next, we move on to a religion that is new to Westeros, the followers of the Lord of Light. R'hllor, also known as the Red God, the Heart of Fire, and the God of Flame and Shadow, is one of two dualistic deities. He is a god of all things good who seeks to protect the world from a dark god known as the Great Other, who is a god of ice and death, who wants to drag the world into eternal night, which is why the Red Priestess always say,
"For the night is dark and full of terrors."
Within this religion, there is an uncertainty as to who will win the fight between the Lord of Light and the Great Other. R'hllor is served by the Red Priests, who build and protect temples for the Lord of Light. This belief system has one of the strongest parallels to one of our own world, for it is an almost exact replica of Zoroastrianism. Zoroastrianism originates in modern-day Iran and is one of the oldest known religions in the world still practiced today. Based on the teachings of the prophet Zoroaster, Zoroastrianism believes in two gods, the creator god Ahura Mazda and the destroyer god Angramayu. This religion is based on the dualistic struggle between light and darkness, and just like its counterpart in Game of Thrones, there is an uncertainty as to who is going to win this struggle. Both religions have an emphasis on winter and the cold. The oncoming winter in Game of Thrones is commonly interpreted by fans of the books as the prophesized long night spoken of by the Red Priests, and that the White Walkers are servants of the Great Other. In Zoroastrianism, there is a similar prophecy about the end of the world coming with ice. At the night of the 100th winter, the sun is more unseen and more spotted. A dark cloud makes the whole sky night, and it will rain more noxious creatures than winter. There is another strong parallel between these two religions in that they are both very messianic. They speak of chosen ones to come during a final battle. In A Song of Ice and Fire, this character is called Azor Ahai, while in Zoroastrianism it is called the Seoshiant, and both characters are said to bring great change to the world when they come. Next we shall look at the religious beliefs of the horse nomads of Essos, the Dothraki. Unlike the previous religions we have covered, there is no particular religion that the Dothraki parallel. However, their religious beliefs can be classified as animistic. The Dothraki are utterly dependent on their horses, and it is the center of their lives and culture. Someone who does not ride a horse is not a man. They worship the horse as a god and fear all things that the horse fears. They refuse to cross the seas because it consists of water that horses do not drink. The closest thing the Dothraki have to a religious clash are the Dosh-Khaleen, the Khaleesi widows of fallen Khals. They are the only permanent residents of Vaes Dothrak and are highly respected. They are known for giving prophecies, the best known of which is the stallion who will mount the world, a figure who will lead the Dothraki to conquer the world. Shamanistic religions are known for having prophecies, but I couldn't find one that directly correlates to the stallion who mounts the world, but it is a common enough theme to fit within the realm of animistic shamanism. Following the Dothraki, we now look at the religions of Slaver's Bay. Similar to the Dothraki, there is no direct parallel to a religion of our world. It fits within a category I call ancient Near East city gods. In the ancient Near East, cities were often the center of political power, and each city would have its own god or gods. If that city is conquered or defeated in battle, they may replace their old gods with the ones of their conqueror, or simply add it to their own pantheon. The ancient Near East had many gods and cities associated with them. The Babylonians had their own gods, and when they conquered other Mesopotamian cities, the worship of their gods spread. And when they were conquered by other powers, they often adopted the gods of their conquerors into their pantheon. These are polytheistic peoples, and because of this belief, it is not crucial that everyone worship the same gods, because polytheists acknowledge the existence of other gods, and that other gods might be more powerful. From Slaver's Bay we go to Braavos, the home of the House of Black and White, dedicated to the many-faced god. This is one of two religions in Game of Thrones that has little or no parallel to a religion in our world. It doesn't quite match any specific religion, however, there are religious elements from our world that can be combined to create this religion. The best way to describe the religion of the many-faced god is as a cult of death. The founder of this religion saw one thing in common everywhere you went. The slaves always prayed for death. They believe that there is only one god, and death is his merciful gift to the living. The many-faced god is prayed to around the world by many names. They believe all the gods of the other religions are just the single god appearing to different people in different forms. This is why the Temple of the Many-Faced Gods has statues of other gods. The Many-Faced God is served by the Faceless Men, a guild of assassins who forsake their personal identities in service to the Many-Faced God. They hold assassinations as a sacred sacrament, but it is not up to individual members of the Faceless Men to decide who dies. This is determined by who hires the Faceless Men and who the leaders of the Faceless Men interpret to be the Many-Faced God's appropriate victim. The theology is similar to that of Hinduism. Within Hinduism, there is something called Brahman. In some sects, it is a cosmic principle, while in other sects, it is a supreme god. The Many-Faced God seems to take its inspiration from the latter variant, where there is only one god, but he comes in many forms. In Hinduism, Brahman has come in many forms, such as Shiva, Vishnu, and Brahma. This matches the theology of the Many-Faced God. The followers and servants of the Many-Faced God do not match those of Hinduism. To find this match, we must journey to the Islamic world to find the parallel to the Faceless Men. Within Islam, the biggest split is between those who followed the successor of Muhammad, Abu Bakr, known as the Sunnis, or his nephew Ali, known as the Shia. Within the Shia branch of Islam, there are also a number of splinter groups. One of these were the Assassins. The Assassins, they were a mysterious group led by an old man of the mountains. They occupied a number of fortresses in Persia, and were a thorn in the side of the Seljuk Turks and the Christian Crusaders. They orchestrated secret killings, and the westernization of their name became a byword for someone who kills an important person in a clandestine way. These were the closest equivalent to the Faceless Men from our world. The final religion we are going to look at brings us back to Westeros, all the way to the Iron Islands. The people of the Iron Islands worship the Drowned God. The Ironborn believe that the Drowned God brought flames from the sea and personally created created the people of the Iron Islands. They believe that this gives them justification for piracy and raiding. The drowned god is in an eternal struggle with the storm god, who sinks ships. However, those drowned at sea are believed to join the drowned god in his watery halls beneath the sea. The drowned men serve as priests of this religion, and only men can serve the drowned god. They have a practice of submerging adherents underwater and lifting them above the water, symbolizing drowning and going to the drowned god's watery halls. The more radical practitioners of this religion will actually drown an individual in the water and then resuscitate them back to life. In this religion, there is no good or evil, just manly and unmanly. Just like the many-faced god and the faceless men, there is no single religion to compare it to. The struggle between the drowned god and the storm god is very dualistic, but not in a good versus evil way like with Zoroastrianism. It is much more like Greek or Norse mythology, where the gods are petty and use humans as pawns in their schemes against each other. The watery halls of the drowned god and the castle above the clouds of the storm god are similar to the idea of Valhalla from Norse mythology. The practice of submerging adherents in water to show their devotion to the drowned god resembles the Christian practice of baptism, though I'm not aware of any denomination of Christianity that actually drown those receiving baptism. Fantasy is a great way to express the ideas of our world in a new way, and it is a great way for fans to learn more about their own world through the eyes of fictional people.